So this is why the big focus today, period poverty, continues to be an ongoing pandemic in South Africa. Women menstruate for about 40 years of their life, but menstrual products are still inaccessible and unaffordable for many. As a result, women, young and old, miss school, work, and important commitments in their everyday lives. Organizations and social departments are doing what they can to alleviate the problem by donating menstrual products, but it's not enough. The stigma, bullying and lack of education around menstruation persists.
Studies have shown that the average South African woman spends nearly 20,000 rand on sanitary products in her lifetime, an amount that many young girls and women can't afford. This was the case for 15-year-old Lerna, who experienced her first period while living with her uncle. She used towels, toilet paper and old clothes as substitutes.
So I was so scared to tell my uncle because he was a man. I didn't know that how will he understand. So I didn't tell him. I kept quiet. I think for 1 year, I kept quiet for 1 year. So I used to cry and ask myself what is happening to me. I didn't tell everyone.
A challenge facing a lot of girls her age.
They laughed at me, so it was difficult and hard for me because they are girls, I am also a girl. And the painful thing in home was poverty. So my parents, they can't afford it.
When I was going to school, I would take maybe my youngest sister's clothes. She left. I would take and cover myself with so that I can be clean around other children.
Some girls start menstruation as early as the age of 11 while doing grade 5. Teachers say the affordability of sanitary towels remains a challenge for most learners, particularly in poverty-stricken areas.
Community, most of the parents are unemployed. Some of them can't even afford to buy a packet of sanitary towels because they depend on social grant, So we do have those cases, and fortunate enough, we do have some spare sanitary towels in our office.
In the first term, I always call all the girls from all the classes, sit down with them. I tell them what is expected of them, what will come from them, the changes in their bodies, menstruation, how does it happen, what they must do. So when they start, I've already gave them the lesson.
It's common for girls to miss school while on their period. This can extend to more than 7 days, depending on the length of menstruation. Many organizations have jumped in to alleviate this high absenteeism rate.
Them they are using socks, old socks. Some of them they are using old cloths. Some of them they are using old diaper nappies. Cut them and you put them on, for protection of the when they are on the periods. Some of them they are using. You'll think that I'm exaggerating. I remember when I was in Joburg, when I heard that some of them they are using grass. A grass. Some of them they are using toilet papers, which is it's dangerous to you. We all know it. Then also we need to protect them from hygienic.
An ongoing debate on whether to use disposable or reusable sanitary products has been circling in many organizations. Cost, cleanliness and biodegradability are all factors in making this choice. Although washable products are the cheaper option, many feel it is inconvenient and dehumanizing. However, the ladies of Gqeberha feel different.
The washable pads are much better than the disposal one because that we can reuse it again and again, and it saves a lot of cost on the girls' side, people who don't afford it too much, especially in the location area. And the disposal is also not bad, but that one can also damage to put it in the dustbin or something, it smells.
I'm using it now. The washables one are very easy for me, and nothing is happening to me. I can wash them
the washables are easy to use, and that you don't have to buy pads every month. We come from different backgrounds. We can't always buy like pads every month.
Professionals believe the use of washable sanitary towels could assist with the challenge of absenteeism at schools.
At least 3 out of 10 girls miss school every month because of the period problems. And unfortunately, the disposable sanitary towels are not a solution, as they're only valid for 1 month and then the girls throw them away, which creates other problems. It causes drains to block up, and it goes into our rivers and dams, which then goes into our drinking water. So a disposable item is not a solution for so many reasons.
One sanitary pad takes between 500 and 800 years to decompose. However, manufacturers say the cost of making biodegradable disposable products will be too high. Kim Daniels, SABC News, Gqeberha.
All right, this is our focus this late afternoon and evening. Let's go over to Bongiwe Zwane, my colleague. She's at Noord Gesig Secondary School in Soweto. Over to you, Bongiwe.
Good afternoon. If you've just joined us, welcome to the special broadcast of The Full View. My name is Bongiwe Zwane. Thank you so much for joining us. And, research has shown that an estimated 3.7 million girls in South Africa cannot afford sanitary pads. And according to the World Bank, if we ensure that our girls have proper menstrual hygiene, they'll be enabled to really reach their full potential, because we do know that sometimes girls miss school because they're not able to have adequate, sanitary pads. And when that time of the month, as some call it, comes, for them, it feels like an even heavier burden, and they're not even be able to leave the house or even be able to, come to school, join their friends. So certainly tonight as a show, we have decided to cast the spotlight on period poverty, something that a lot of young girls are struggling with. They're suffering in silence. And I tell you, Francis, that when we are speaking to quite a lot of them this afternoon at the school, they talk about the shame of it all. They talk about the discomfort that they experience during the time when they are menstruating. Some say that they were not even told by their parents what this period means for them, what is happening with their bodies, what kind of changes are they experiencing. There's lots of gaps when it comes to the conversations that we are having as society with our young girls, who are, of course, going to grow up to be women themselves. So certainly tonight, casting the spotlight live from Noord Gesig Secondary School, looking at period poverty. What is it doing to our girls? How do we better the situation for them? And I'm not alone, Francis. I do have with me several guests who are going to be helping us really get into the nitty-gritties of this particular conversation, to understand the different layers, to get a sense of how things are going. And I do have Jessica Carlson seated right next to me. She's a student at this particular school. Bella Dube is right next to her. She's also a learner at the school. There's also Nandile Madanga, who's also a learner at the school. And we do have Star Kulu, who is with Siyagunagegela Foundation. And of course, this is a foundation, Francis, that we saw this afternoon handing out sanitary pads to the girls. They were very excited about this because for them, some of them say they did not even know what they were going to do when their period comes this month. So certainly a very important conversation that we are having. And thank you so much to you all for joining us this evening. I hope you're not nervous as you were when we were having conversations just off camera. Kulu, I mean, I'll start with you. Let's start with, this initiative. It's a great one. It's one that we need to see a replication of all over, and really helping our girls. Talk to us about why did you, as Siyakunakekela, which means we are caring for you, why did you decide to start this initiative?
Having us, and thank you for the viewers for tuning in. Today is incredibly important, and you actually touched on a point of the fact that why this should be happening a lot more. As Siyakunakekela, which literally means we take care of you, our main thing is to find the communities that need us and to aid them, and we do that strictly through donations. So I think what's really important is the why here is why we do it for the community, our girl children and the women. We are cast aside, our issues are taken as siloed issues that are not seen as the broader issue. And the thing with period poverty is that it is a broader issue, and we thank you for giving us a platform to talk about it today.
And thank you very much. We'll continue our conversation. I'd like to bring in Nandile. Nandile, when you and I were talking off camera, one of the things that became very clear is that this is not only something that happens to your body, but it is something that is that invokes a lot of emotion for you as a young girl. And I don't know if you are able to share, part of your story with us, because you say that your parents are unemployed, and when your periods come, it's a burden for you.
Okay, I'll thank you for your time, and also I'll thank you. So into ngifuna ngayo ukuthi sometimes ukuhlungu ukuthi udlule kwi periods because u feeling ngathi khona I burden eza kuwe, because makufika I monthly period awazi nokuthi uzoqala phi, awazi ukuthi uzobheka kuphi, and vele uthi yo kunzima ndazi nokuthi uzoqala phi. And then sometimes ke ucela ama neighbor ukuthi yazicomboleka I period, and sometimes nale neighbor ayinayo, so andazi sometimes uhlala endlini uzibona ba uzozenzela kanjani.
And what Nandile says for viewers who were not able to understand, she talks about the burden of having her period. She says that at some point when there is no money in her home, she then has to borrow pads from neighbors in order to be able to really have something to use during that time. And when she doesn't get any help from the neighbors, she chooses to stay at home, because for her, there is no other alternative that she can then look to. I'll come back to you, Nandile Bella. When I, had a conversation with you a little earlier on, we were talking about the difficulties and the struggles for young women to get pads, but at the same time, the difficulties that come with being at school and you have to ask your friends to also borrow you pads.
Thank you for having me. And well, we girls, we shy to come up front and talk, and it becomes, how can I say this? It becomes very difficult because some make fun of that. You understand? We can go to the teachers and to the office they provide, but if it's your first time having periods, it becomes a shock. You don't know anything about that, you were not taught, and well, some parents, they do sit their children down and talk to them, some they don't. So it becomes something that is unfamiliar to them, you understand? Yes.
Jessica, Bella talks about not knowing what to do when you're on your periods, the fun that other girls at school would make if you don't have pads. Let's talk about your experience, because you're somebody that is seeing a lot in the community, seeing a lot in the school. Is that something you're witnessing as well?
Yes, thank you for having me, first of all.
Thank you.
Yes, it is something that has been an issue for many years, that has been brought upon every community in South Africa, as well as the schools. Not only as Noordse Secondary, the learners, the girls basically, even the boys, they find it funny when a girl is on the stage where she has a period. They find it funny to communicate with teachers and just laughs and mocks at her all the time.
Star, you're listening to this, and I'm sure obviously as an NGO, you've come in, you are helping, you're trying to do as much as you possibly can. Is this part of the aim to remove the shame from the girls as they talk about how they're being made fun of?
I think if we don't add that to the purpose, then we're not going to do an accurate job. I think the fundamental issue in South Africa is that girl children and women are not taken seriously. And so because people don't understand, people see it as a physical thing. They see it as a structural thing. 4 to 5 days, blood, that's it. But they don't take into consideration the emotional effect. Imagine having to spend 4 to 5 days at home and to make that decision because you don't have sanitary pads. And if you do decide to go to school, it's the option of toilet paper and the most unreasonable things in your arsenal, and then you've got to spend the whole day trying to find a way to sit properly, and if you stand, you don't. No one understands the nuances of that experience, that 4 to 5 days. It is both emotional and physical, and if we're not addressing both, we're not addressing our girl children, which is already an issue in South Africa in general.
Bella, you said when Star is talking about toilet paper sometimes having to be used, and I want you to tell me more about why you agreed with what she was saying.
Well, firstly, can I relate to my story?
Yes.
My parents are unemployed, both, and having access to pads is a difficult thing. And when she said girls use toilet papers, old clothes, or sometimes they are clothing to you understand. I've been in those situations whereby I have to use my old clothes, I have to use my clothes to help myself. So it's something that we as girls, we're going through a lot. In a month, a day, we're going through a lot. So yeah, that's why I was agreeing with her statement. Yes.
Nandile, you want to say something?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to say something that I agree with what she's saying, because sometimes we deal with like those kind of problems when we don't have any sanitary pads, so you stay at home. Even sometimes you miss school because you can't afford sanitary pads, because sanitary pads are expensive. So that's why I'm saying yes.
Do you feel like, Jessica, that at times it is a difficult choice to decide between buying a loaf of bread as a young girl or buying sanitary pads?
Being honest, yes. Bread is needed in every household. By you being a girl and choosing yourself upon your family members is wrong. But you need to look for yourself as well as how you're going to treat yourself. You should put yourself first as a girl, as a female. It doesn't matter the circumstances you're in. It is how you're going to treat yourself during the years to come and during the period of your period.
And if I can just add on to that, I think what's really important to note here is that these girls should just be girls. Yes. They should not be worrying about this. It is not about them figuring out whether to buy bread or buy pads. It is an adult issue. The resource issue is an adult issue. It starts with the family. And if the family is unable to provide, the community needs to step in. And when the community is not able to provide, the government is supposed to step in. At no point is an adolescent supposed to be concerned about something like that. That is our responsibility.
And you're right, Star, because one of the things that, you know, is so important that you mentioned, Star, is it's not their responsibility, it's not their burden to carry. But at the same time, they're not being told what is happening with their bodies. They're not even being told what to expect during this time. And I wonder, how then do we begin to close the gap of that particular conversation that also needs to be happening with them?
How you close that gap is that you bring those conversations into schools. Every school has, most schools, and this is the sad thing, is that it's not all, right? But most schools have life orientation class. For me, I honestly don't feel like it's the responsibility of those schools to, you know, answer all the questions and be a second parent. It's the responsibility of the government and the people who are cascading these programs and the textbooks to stand at the top of the hill looking at South Africa and what girl children need, and then realigning the life orientation classes to meet it. When I was in life orientation at school, the part where it spoke about sex and it was penises and vaginas was stapled together. So there is a problem with the conversations we were having from the beginning, and the way that you can access at scale women, girls, is to start at school where they already are. Get the conversations into class, put the conversations in textbooks, overhaul life orientation, and make it talk about gender-based violence, make it talk about periods, and make it talk about who these girls want to be when they leave the school.
Nandile, one of the things that Upela talks about is the dignity of it all.
Yes.
Is that you are sitting in class, you are on your period. The one thing that you want the most is to ensure that you don't spill. Because once the blood is there, visible for the boys, then you become
afraid,
a joke, or you become afraid. Let's talk about the stigma for you. Uba nentloni.
Yes,
Ungastain anything at all.
Yes, ma'am, I'll be very embarrassed if ngaba khona igazi, because boys are going to laugh at me. I'm going to be a laughing stock the whole year. And sometimes I'll just cry, ma'am, because I don't know where to go. Because they're going to laugh at me, ma'am. Even when I stand up, they're going to say, "Where Pegalona?" And just, I'll cry, ma'am. So I'll feel embarrassed. Yeah.
Girls, you are nodding. I'll start with you, Bella.
I understand her. She feels lost, alone, and her surroundings also. It's a bad impact, because instead of helping, they are making fun of that. Do you understand? Yes. So that's why I'm nodding.
And for you, Jessica?
Like she said, yeah, it touches me instead, because girls suffer. Being honest, we suffer a lot. We get bullied, we get shouted. It leads into depression. And once a girl gets to that stage of the month and boys making fun of her, she automatically slips in depression, starts cutting herself, and later a dead body is found. So we need to see what we can do.
We're listening to these stories, Star, and it's not just about us letting them go after this. There's a campaign that Siyagunagegela is embarking upon. Talk to us about that.
So we're here today at Noordgesig. We started here, firstly. This is a campaign that's going to last for 2 months, and our aim really is to make sure that we have 50,000 sanitary pads go out to 30,000 girls in South Africa within the next 2 months. And I'm saying within the next 2 months because I want to highlight the fact that they're needed monthly. So we're starting an effort that we're hoping will cascade and, build at scale. So what we want, to kind of bring forward is the fact that, look, if I can give an example of you and I, Bongiwe, when we're going to the grocery store, we have a list, right? You have a list of things you need monthly. You put the pads in without thinking twice about what they might cost. If you see a 3-4 rand rise, yes, you raise your eyebrow, but you don't drop it, right? There are families that are needing to choose, like you said, between bread and pads monthly. It is not okay. And so with this campaign, we really want to, A, raise that awareness, but also, B, start tangible changes and start in our small communities, like coming to Noordgesig Secondary School. Mr. Lowe has been so kind to us, allowing us to take over the field and share stories, but also share that time with the girls, which is very important. So we really, as Siyagunagela, the foundation specifically, want to encourage, firstly, corporates that are standing saying, what do we do with CSI? How do we get involved? How do we make sure that the girls that are going to occupy our spaces in our corporate companies grow up the way that they deserve to grow up? You can donate. We have the website, siyagunagela.africa. That is where you can go to find out how you can make a difference here. And we also have a hotline that specifically speaks to that. So if you want to speak to the team, find out where your money is going, find out what we're doing, you can go there. But I want to highlight the fact that we start at 25 Rand. It's 25 Rand contribution that's going to make a difference in so many people's lives. If you think about what you do with 25 Rand, like I said, it's a very quick thing for us to put that in monthly. But the fact that other people need to think about it and the fact that other girl children need to think about it is a problem. So we're just reaching out for that sake.
Star, thank you so much for that. And you've heard for yourselves as the viewers, 25 Rand is all it takes. We don't necessarily think about it. It's not even a cost of your cup of coffee. So you can be able to put this money aside for the better good. So definitely get involved, get on board, assist these young girls who are talking and sharing their different experiences. 25 Rand is a difference between a young girl keeping her dignity as well as being able to come to school or staying at home and having no education at all. Thank you so much to you all. I do appreciate your time. And up next, we have a conversation that is going to be looking at why is government not providing sanitary towels for every single girl in South Africa? Is that so difficult? We answer that question after the break.